Um, just waiting to get going. All right, Mashpaka. So we left off with Esther and Haman, and she invited Haman and the king. Esther invited Haman and the king, who happens to be her husband, to um to have a dinner. And she was cooking dinner for them. She was having like a little feast for them that it always seemed to translate to a drinking party. Maybe that's a party where you drink. I don't know. Instead of a party like a drinking and food party. But we're in the book of Esther. We're in chapter 8 of the Lexham English Septuagint. All right, Bible. All right. And we're going into Esther's. It's about to be some revenge going on. It's about to be some revenge. So Haman just got killed. Haman, the scripture says that Haman was hanged on the pole which he prepared for Mordecai. He made a 75-foot pole to hang Mordecai on, and it backfired on him. So now we're gonna pick up with chapter 8, and we're gonna continue reading, explaining it, and then we'll be finished with the understanding of Purim and what happened. All right. Purim, by the way, is a place that means like galleys or gallows or not gallows, but galleys like places where people are hung, lots. It means lots. Okay. It says, and on that day, King Ahasuerus bestowed upon Esther whatsoever possessions belonged to Haman the slanderer. And Mordecai was summoned by the king, for Esther made it known that he was related to her. Now the king knows that Esther is an Israelite. Then the king took the ring that he had taken from Haman and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed Mordecai over all of the things that had been Haman's. See, this girl is loyal. The king gave her all the king gave her all of Haman's things, and then the niece, Esther, gave it to her uncle Mordecai. All right. And having advanced toward the king, she spoke and fell before his feet, and she begged him to take away the evil of Haman, as great as he had done to the Judeans. All right, so all of Haman's possessions belonged to Esther, all of his riches. The king gave it to Esther, and Esther gave it to her uncle. So he had an instant bump in his economic position. All right, and now Esther is begging him to take away the evil, um, the schedule to commit genocide on all of the Israelites throughout the Persian Empire, which included the land of Israel, which included all of Northeast Africa, Egypt, all right, Ethiopia, and it specifically mentions Ethiopia. And then you have Egypt and Sudan that are part of the Kushite Empire, okay? And it says, then the king stretched out the golden scepter to Esther, and Esther raised up to stand near the king. And Esther said, if it seems good to you, and I have found favor, let letters be sent to return the letters which were sent by Haman, the letters that were to destroy the Judeans who are in your kingdom. For how can I bear to see the oppression of my people? How can I dare to be saved amidst the destruction of my country? Then the king said to Esther, if all the possessions of Haman I gave to you, and I showed kindness to you, and I hanged him upon the pole because he laid his hands upon the Judeans, what more do you seek? Likewise, you write in my name as seems good to you, and seal it with my ring. For whatsoever is written from the king, being enjoined and sealed with my ring, it is not for them to oppose. So he's saying, look, I gave my ring of authority and power, just like Pharaoh gave to Joseph. I give it to you, to Mordecai, And then Mordecai can make this a law, but there's a problem why Mordecai can't do this. And we're going to read about this problem. So he's saying just pass the law. All right. Um, so the scribes were summoned in the first month, which is Siwan, on the 23rd day of the same year. And it was written for the Judeans, whatever had been commanded to the stewards of the rulers of the satraps, that's the provinces, from India to Ethiopia, 127 satrapies, territory by territory, in the language of each. And it was written through the agency of the king, and it was sealed with his ring. And they dispatched the letters by letter carriers, that he commanded them to use their laws in each city, both to aid them and to help them against their opponents and those who restrict them as they wish. And one day, all the kingdom of Ahasuerus, on the 13th day of the month, which is Adar. All right. So um, they're saying, they're saying, just write the letter, okay, and then send send it through all of the provinces, and make sure you put it in their language, okay, which is a language that everybody can understand in the provinces, okay. Um, Now I'm not sure exactly why they're calling Siwan the first month, all right, because Siwan is the third month. You have Abib, then you have Iyad, and then you have Siwan or Sivan. All right. So I'm not sure about that. Why they would, you know, maybe it was the first in some other counting type system that they had going on in Persia. All right. But nonetheless, they in one day all the kingdoms of Ahasuerus on the 13th and 12th, all right, 13th day of the 12th month, which is Adar. All right. So now the following is a copy of this letter. So this is the letter that got sent out, all right, to take back everything that Haman tried to do to murder all of the Israelites throughout the kingdom. Constant barrage of homicidal murder is following our people, all right? The following is a copy of this letter. The great king Ahasuerus, to the rulers of the 127 satrapies within the territories from India to Ethiopia, and to those who share our purposes, greetings. Many men, frequently being honored with the greatest generosity of their benefactors, are presumptuous, and not only do they seek to harm our subjects, but not being able to bear prosperity, they endeavor to plot against their own benefactors. Not only are they canceling the gratitude of people, but being carried away by the boast of those who are strangers to goodness, they suppose they shall escape this evil-hating justice of the God who always sees all things. Furthermore, often encouragement has involved many who have been appointed to offices and entrusted to handle the affairs of friends, in fatal circumstances, having made them accomplices of shedding innocent blood by the lying deception of malevolence, men who have led astray the innocent goodwill of those who govern. And it is possible to observe this not so much from the ancient accounts as we have been handed down, as it is close at hand. When you observe what has been accomplished wickedly through the pestilent condition of those who rule unworthily, So he's really just talking about Haman, that Haman was wicked, Haman was evil, Haman wanted to shed innocent blood. Okay. And for the future, we shall offer to make the kingdom undisturbed, peaceful to all persons, dealing with the changes and always judging what is to come by its appearance with a more moderate reply. Okay, now this is going out throughout the Persian Empire, which we know is Iran today. So Iran used to be a very tolerant and inclusive. Iran didn't always have such harsh political laws. That came in when they tried to make it into a Shiite Muslim republic, Islamic Republic of um, of Iran. All right, the Islamic Republic of Iran. So they kicked out the regular political leaders. They had a king, all right, and then they put in presidents or leaders, um, kind of a political system, and they had the religious leaders on the side influencing the policies of the country. That's the Iran we see now. The Iran from the 40s and the 50s, was a different Iran. It was more open and more liberal. Okay. Um, so it says, dealing with the changes and always judging what is to come in appearance with a more moderate reply. For when Haman, the son of Hamadatha, a Macedonian, who was in truth a foreigner to Persian blood, and standing far apart from our kindness, thought to have been hospitable to us, all right, obtain the benevolence that we hold for every nation to such a degree that he was publicly proclaimed as our father. So he's saying Haman, got elevated in Iranian society, even though he was a Macedonian, which is an Edomite of ancient Greek extract. But now when you look at it, the Edomites of Macedonia, they they were related to the family of the Agagites or Agag, which was from the lineage of the Edomites. So this links up the Edomites and the Macedonians right here. It says, and continuing as the second face of the royal throne, meaning he was second in command of the whole kingdom. Okay. He was worshiped by all, meaning everybody bowed down to him, but not restraining his pride. He attempted from the beginning to deprive us even of our spirit, of both Mordecai, our Savior and perpetual benefactor, and Esther, the blameless companion of the king, along with all their nation. So he's saying that Mordecai was a good person and Esther was the queen's wife, and he wanted to deprive them. Why is he calling Mordecai savior? Because Mordecai saved the king's life when he discovered that murderous plot. He says, with the ingenious deceptions of stratagems, he asked for their destruction. For by these methods, he imagined that he would catch us defenseless to transfer the dominion of the Persians to the Macedonians. So he's saying that when you weaken the Jews and kill the Israelites throughout the kingdom, that the Edomites could have more space to take over. The Edomites would have more space to take over. The Israelites spread throughout their kingdom, all right, would be gone, and there would be no war resistance for the Macedonians. They could just take over the Persians. Um, which we know that the Persian Medes did eventually get conquered by the Macedonians, aka the Greeks, under Alexander. All right. Just over 100 years later. All right. So that did end up happening, but it wasn't the time for it yet. But we find that the Judeans who were betrayed in this thrice sinful man for destruction are not malefactors. They don't do bad things, but are living by the most righteous laws. They're living by the laws of Yahweh and are the sons of the living God, the most high and greatest. who guides the kingdom both for us and for our ancestors in the most excellent arrangement. Therefore, do honorably, do honorably. Do not put to use the letter sent by Haman, son of Hammedatha, because he who worked out these things was crucified at the gates of Susa with his whole household. What are you doing? About to walk around here and by his whole household. God, Yahweh, who ruled over all things, having swiftly repaid him a worthy judgment, and openly publishing a copy of this letter in every place, permit the Judeans to use their own laws and join in helping them, so that on the 13th day of the 12th month, Adar, on the same day, they may defend themselves against those who attack them in a time of oppression. For in time of the destruction of his chosen race, Yahweh, who chose over all things, who rules over all things, has made this a time of merriment for them. Therefore, you also, among your named feasts, celebrate a notable day with all good cheer. Now, this, I'm going to tell you something that nobody's probably told you before. All right. This, it seems like would be, because he told everybody in the whole empire to celebrate this day. All right. Now, he did control close to Eastern Greece. All right. Control close to Eastern Greece. So this was corrupted, it seems like, later on to become Lupercalia, which people call St. Valentine's Day now, because it's on the same time, the 14th of February. But here it's on the 14th day of the 14th day of the 12th month. All right. The 14th of the 12th month, which is between usually between February and March. Right. So they took this day and they corrupted it, and that's why you see some of our days coincide with days of because what the Edomites do, because the Romans didn't have Saturnalia. Hanukkah on the 25th of Caslu of the 9th month came before the day of Saturnalia. All right, it came before it, so it's older than all of these observances. So the things that the Israelites were observing as special days, the Gentiles came later and said, well, we're going to corrupt this and do this on this particular day. All right. It seems like the evidence is very strong in that regard. All right. He said this is going to be now and afterward. It may be a day of deliverance for us and for all those favorable Persians, but for those who contrived against us, a memorial of destruction. Because those that was siding with Haman, that now the tables are turned and everybody's going to rise up to fight against them. In every city and territory, without exception, that does not act accordingly shall be consumed with wrath by spear and fire. It shall be rendered not only desolate for humans, but also hateful for beasts and birds for all time. And the transcript was posted publicly, conspicuously in all the kingdom. And all the Judeans were prepared on that day to make war on their enemies. Accordingly, the horsemen went out, hastening to fulfill the orders by the king, and the ordinance was publicized even in Susa, which is the royal city. So he's saying everybody's going to rise up, and anybody that wants to come up against the Israelites, y'all rise up and y'all attack them. Okay? And Mordecai came out adorned in the royal robe and wearing a golden crown and a diadem made of fine purple linen. And the people of Susa rejoiced when they saw him. Then light and merriment appeared for the Judeans throughout every city and territory. wherever the ordinance was publicized, wherever the proclamation was publicized, there was joy and merriment for the Judeans, feast and mirth, and many of the Gentiles were circumcised and lived as Judeans for fear of the Judeans. So this is when you had so many Israelites in these different countries, in essence, converted. So you have Israelites already in these territories that have been there at this point for over 1,000 years, in this day and age. And then you have Gentiles that converted back then that have been there, since the time of Esther, roughly 1,600 years. So that's how you have Israelites throughout all these different areas. One of the sources of these Israelites is this mass conversion that took place throughout all of the empire. So not only did you have Israelites being saved, you had Israelites getting larger. You had people joining us to worship Yahweh, getting circumcised, and to keep the commandments also. So this is a major event, right? It says, for the 12th month on the 13th day of the month, that is Adar, the letters that had been written by the king arrived. On this day, those who opposed the Judeans were destroyed, and no one withstood. No one withstood, fearing them. For the rulers of the satraps, and the tyrants and the royal scribes honored the Judeans, for fear of Mordecai weighed upon them. For the ordinance of the king became known, it was remembered in all the kingdom. And in the city, the Judeans killed 500 men, including Parshan and Nestaim and Dalphon and Aspatha and Poratha and Adalia and Aridatha and Parmashtha and Arasai and Aridai, and they got and, they just don't believe in the commas, and Vaizatha, the 10 sons of Haman. So all his lineage was cut out. The son of Hamedatha, the Borgios, the enemy of the Judeans, and they plundered on the same day. And the number of those who were destroyed in Susa was given to the king. Then the king said to Esther, the Judeans killed 500 men in the city of Susa and in the surrounding area. So that was just in one city area. That's a lot of people just in one place. How do you imagine they suffered? What therefore do you deem worthy still to ask? It will be done for you. So this dude's like, yo, what else y'all need? And Esther said to the king, grant the Judeans to do in like manner tomorrow. So Esther is cold-blooded. Esther said we need 2 days of bloodshed, not 1 day, right? She said we need another day to shed blood. So it says, so that we may hang the 10 sons of Haman. So he permitted it to happen in this way. And he published for the Judeans of the city to hang the bodies of the sons of Haman. And the Judeans in Susa were assembled on the 14th day of Adar. And they killed 300 men, but no one plundered. So they didn't go crazy and steal everybody's stuff. They just said us killing them is enough. Now, this is on the 14th of Adar, all right? And they killed 300 men, but no one plundered. Then the remainder of the Judeans who were in the kingdom were assembled, and they helped themselves and ceased from their warring activities. And they had killed 15,000 of them on the 13th day of Adar, but no one plundered. So they rested on the 14th of the same month and observed the same as a day of rest with joy and merriment. And the Judeans who were in the city of Susa gathered gathered as well on the 14th day and rested, but they observed also the 15th day as a day of joy, as a day with joy and merriment. So that's where you get the 14th and the 15th of Adar. Therefore, on account of this, the Judeans who are scattered abroad in every territory on the outside observe the 14th day of Adar as a good day. With merriment, they sent portions, each to his neighbor, but those who dwell in the mother city also observe the 15th of Adar for good merriment, also sending forth portions to their neighbors. Now we look at that portions. A lot of people look at it like, oh, it's gifts. The portion is just they were sharing food. Um, and when I lived in Turkey, they would do that. They would the neighbors, sometimes the neighbors when they had certain celebrations, they would knock on your door and give you some of the food that they had as part of their celebration. You know, it's very common in the Middle East, in that part of the world. But in the U.S., you bring a dish to somebody's house because you're participating in that feast. But in this situation, you're actually giving somebody a gift of food for them to keep at their house, and then you go back to yours. All right. Um, Now Mordecai wrote these words in a document and sent it to all the Judeans in the kingdom of Ahasuerus, to those near and to those far away, to establish these as good days to observe both the 14th and 15th day of Adar. For in these days the Judeans rested from their enemies and to observe the entire month, which is Adar, in which it changed for them from grief to joy and from pain to a good day. All the good days of feasting and merriment, to send portions to their friends and to the poor. So the Judeans accepted it just as Mordecai wrote for them. How Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Macedonian, made war against them. How he set a decree to and a lot to destroy them. And how, when it said he set a decree and a lot, that the lot again is the place where they were going to hang all of the Israelites, like make public spectacles. Now, of course, some of them were going to get killed, and murdered and, slain or maybe even burnt. But the big spectacle of it was to hang everybody, right? That was a spectacle to hang everybody. All right. And how he went, all right, and how he went to the king, saying that he should hang Mordecai. But as much as he made an attempt to bring evil things upon the Judeans, they came upon him, and he was hanged, and his children. On account of this, these days are called Purim because of the lots, that in their dialect was called Purim, on account of the words of this letter. And as much as they suffered on account of these things, and as much as happened to them, the Judeans established it and took it upon themselves and upon their seed and upon those that handed it after them, so that they would not celebrate the month differently. So they're going to keep the same celebration, the same practices. So that these days would be kept as a remembrance throughout generation after generation by city and family and territory. And these words of Purim will be celebrated for all time. And this remembrance will not come to an end from the generations. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Judean, wrote all that they did in the confirmation of the letter concerning Purim. And Mordecai and Esther the queen established themselves privately, and then they stood according to their own health and their plan. And Esther established it by command for eternity, and it was written for a memorial. Now the king inscribed upon every kingdom by land and by sea, both his strength and bravery, and the wealth and glory of his kingdom. Behold, it is written in the document of the kings of the Persians and the Medes for a memorial. And Mordecai was next in rank to King Ahasuerus, and he was great in the kingdom. He was great in the kingdom and was honored and loved by the Judeans. He told his way of life to all his people. And Mordecai said, these things have come from Yahweh, for I remembered about the dream that I saw concerning these things. For no item of them failed. There was a small fountain that became a river, and there was light and the sun, and much water. Esther is the river, whom the king married, and he made her queen. And the two dragons are I myself and Haman, and the nations are those that had been gathered together to destroy the name of the Judeans. But my nation, which is Israel, the people who cried to Yahweh and who were saved, and Yahweh saved his people, and Yahweh rescued us of all these afflictions. He rescued us out of all these afflictions, and Yahweh performed signs and wonders, great things that have not been done among the nations. Therefore, he made two lots, one for the people of Yahweh and one for the nations. And these two lots came for a season and a time and for a day of judgment before Yahweh and for all the nations. And Yahweh remembered his people and justified his own inheritance. And these people, in the month of Adar, the 14th and 15th of the month, shall be for them days with a gathering and joy and merriment before Yahweh. You see that? Supposed to get together, have joy, merriment, and have a gathering. Not just, oh, this is Purim, let me do my regular thing, but to actually, recognize what it is, right? Throughout the generations for eternity among the people of Israel. All right. Then it says, in the fourth year, while Ptolemy and Cleopatra were reigning, Dositheos, who said he was a priest and Levite, and Ptolemy his son, brought into Egypt the preceding letter concerning Purim, which they had affirmed and had been translated by Lysimachus, the son of Ptolemaeus, one of those in Jerusalem. All right, so that is that's the finality of Esther. All right, so the story worked out fine. The story worked out fine. The history of what happened, the story that we just read, everything worked out fine. And we always make it through obstacles, You're part of a family, but your strength of being an Israelite, excuse me, your strength of being an Israelite is useless, pointless, by yourself, isolated. It's also useless and pointless just studying the Bible. And that's it. Because people need bread, people need meat, people need fruits, vegetables, people need houses, people need transportation. So the isolation of the 12 tribes is a benefit to our adversaries. But us understanding the unity that Esther and them had, and they told all the people in the city, hey, y'all, this is what we're going to do. They told the people in the city, hey, y'all, we need to fast and pray, right? They told the people in the city, we're going to go out and kill these people. And this happened all throughout the Persian Empire. So Israelites were not just incorporated in, with the Gentiles, they were getting together and knowing that they were Israelites, and they were getting together to help defend themselves, and they were getting together for spiritual benefits from Yahweh, to beg Yahweh to help us. All right, to beg Yahweh to help us. So these are things that we need to look at and understand. Vengeance is mine, says Yahweh, and he took vengeance on uh, all of the people that rose up against the children of Israel. He took vengeance on them. They got punished. They got killed. Their blood spilled. And this is an aspect of the God of Israel that people don't like to discuss. They don't like to talk about. And the people that are saying they're Jews now, they don't seem to have that type of personality to just rise up against their enemies and start killing. They seem to be the type to have other people do the dirty work for them, right? They seem to be the type that kind of do sneaky warfare. Sneaky meaning like they won't do a warfare against you like straight up in your face or on a battlefield, but they'll figure out some way to get at you inadvertently. But these Israelites here were getting at their adversaries directly. It was a straight up warfare. All right. It was straight up warfare. And that is the conclusion. We see that vengeance belonged to Yahweh, and the Israelites took vengeance on their enemies. And it got to the point where the people were so scared that some of them became some of them lived as Judeans. All right. Which means they actually converted to keep the Torah. Now that's Ezra. It was like 8:17. All right. And this is something that people do. People say, we want to keep these commandments, we want to follow the Israelites, we want to follow your God. And but right now they really don't have that desire to worship the God of Israel. But what they want to do is be like us in other ways. They want to follow things that we do. They want to make the music that we make. They want to dress with the clothes that we dress with. They want to use the words that we use. All right. So again, these people, in this case, they got circumcised and they converted because they saw the power that we had. And again, this goes back to what we said in the first chapter, that every woman should fear her husband. The fear that they had was because of the evil intentions that our enemies had and the power that we had against them if they wanted to come to us, sideways, or come to us with some, disrespect. But worshiping the Most High, Yahweh, keeping the Sabbath, how we dress, how we eat, is nothing to fear right there. So these people wanted to live like us because they saw the power that we had. Of course, over generations, now they said, well, we're gonna keep serving y'all guys. So 2, 3 generations later, people were keeping the Torah. Just like Islam took over places later on. And when they took over these places, the people converted to Islam out of fear. But then 2, 3 generations later, they incorporated into that body. Okay. So that's the history of Esther and Mordecai and Purim. And again, what I read may sound a little different because I didn't read it from the Hebrew-based Bible, because you can see Esther in the website Sepharia. You know, they have all of the books. So there is a, and they have the scroll, they got the Esther scroll, which is read, which is what we just kind of did right here, um, which is the Megillat Esther, which is the Esther scroll. Okay, but when you look at the Greek, the older Greek version, that's usually more reliable because the Hebrew version did come later, rather. I was thinking about the letter that was translated at Jerusalem. But the Hebrew that we have now came after the Greek version that we have. All right, everybody. So that's going to end it. I don't know if there's anybody on. Let's go YouTube. I don't think I can see Facebook, but let's go YouTube. Any questions on YouTube? All right, any questions on YouTube? Now is your chance to ask any question that you may have. Okay, now are there any questions in the chat? Any questions in the chat group right here? Nevada, California, Texas, Washington. Any questions on that side? Okay. All right, everybody. So, I enjoyed our time together. May the Most High bless you. And have a good evening. Have a good night. And again, this is available, for replay. By the way, Facebook is deleting like live videos after 30 days, and that's why we do a simulcast to two different social media platforms, so that when Facebook deletes it after 30 days, it can be seen on YouTube perpetually. All right. Now we could also have it on Facebook perpetually, but we'd have to go ahead and upload it onto Facebook. Download it from YouTube first, and then upload it onto Facebook. All right, Mashpaka, so this ends the Hanukkah readings. Have a good evening and have a good night. Have a good morning. All right, shalom.